Sir, I need to see your papers right now.
Papers? I'm buying a drink. What's this about?
Identification, immigration status. Let's go.
I'm police captain. Badge is right here.
Step back from your waist.
Look, see? Gold Shield Department ID, Captain Marcus Reeves, Metro PD.
That doesn't mean anything to me. Could be fake. You need to produce immigration
Better
documents.
listen,
Call my
sir.
precinct.
Two ICE agents, Derek Hoffman and Luis Vega, approached a black man in civilian clothes at 3:47 p.m., their body cameras capturing Hoffman's opening line, "Where are you from and you have documentation?" The man stayed calm as Vega moved his hand toward his weapon. What they didn't know was that they were illegally detaining Captain Michael Torres, a decorated police officer whose federal lawsuit would cost the government $12.4 million and expose a pattern of racial profiling that ended both their careers. Before we go any further, comment where in the world you are watching from and make sure to subscribe because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss. Michael Torres pulled into the Sunoco station on Route 9 at 3:45 p.m. Gray hoodie, jeans, day off. He walked into the convenience store, grabbed an energy drink, paid cash, and headed back to his car. That's when the two ICE agents blocked his path. The body cam footage shows it clearly. Hoffman stepped directly in front of Torres, while Vega moved to cut off his car door. "Where are you from and do you have documentation?" Hoffman demanded. Torres stopped. "Excuse me? I need to see your identification." Hoffman's hand drifted toward his belt. Around them, other customers walked freely. White, Asian, Hispanic. Nobody else was being stopped. Torres kept his hands visible. "What's the reason for the stop?" Vega's palm rested on his holster now. "Immigration compliance operation. Papers, now." The body cam timestamp, 3:48 p.m. Torres stayed calm. "I'm a U.S. citizen. You have no legal authority to detain me without reasonable suspicion." Hoffman moved closer. "You fit a description. We can do this easy or we can do this hard." "What description?" Hoffman glanced at Vega. The body cam caught it, that split-second look that said there was no description. They had profiled him for one reason, his skin color. "Turn around, hands on the vehicle," Hoffman ordered. "I'm Captain Michael Torres, Metro Police Department. You're violating my Fourth Amendment rights." Vega's face went pale on camera, but Hoffman doubled down. "I don't care who you say you are. Hands on the car, now." A woman pumping gas 3 spots over pulled out her phone and started recording. Her name was Janet Crawley, and her footage would later corroborate everything. Torres placed his hands on his hood. 15 years as a cop, 3 years as captain of downtown precinct, 17 commendations. None of it mattered in this moment. Hoffman patted him down while Vega yanked his wallet out. The body cam shows Vega opening the wallet. His face froze. Metro PD identification, badge number, Captain Michael Torres. Hoffman snatched it, studied it, then shoved it back. No apology, no explanation, just "You're free to go." 3:52 p.m. 4 minutes of illegal detention captured on their own body cameras. Torres sat in his car, hands gripping the steering wheel. He'd spent his career training officers on constitutional rights, on proper stops, on treating people with dignity, and 2 federal agents had just treated him like a criminal at a gas station in broad daylight because of the color of his skin. He pulled out his phone and called his attorney. 6 days later, Michael Torres filed a federal civil rights lawsuit against Derek Hoffman, Luis Vega, and U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement for racial profiling, illegal detention, and violation of his constitutional rights. The body cam footage was Exhibit A. The lawsuit demanded $12.4 million in damages. The lawsuit hit ICE headquarters like a bomb. Torres's attorney, Jennifer Caldwell, filed the complaint in federal court with 47 pages of evidence, witness statements, and the full body cam footage from both agents. She didn't hold back. The complaint outlined 3 major violations: racial profiling under the Equal Protection Clause, illegal seizure under the Fourth Amendment, and violation of Torres's civil rights under federal law. Caldwell attached Janet Crowley's phone video, which showed the entire confrontation from a different angle. She also included testimonies from 4 other gas station customers who confirmed that Torres was the only person stopped that afternoon. But the most damaging evidence was the body cam footage itself. Caldwell had it analyzed frame by frame. At 4:37 p.m., Hoffman and Vega were sitting in their vehicle scanning the parking lot. The footage shows them watching Torres walk out of the store. Vega points. Hoffman nods. They exit their vehicle and approach him within seconds. No radio call, no dispatch, no report of suspicious activity. They targeted him on sight. The footage also caught audio most people missed on first viewing. Right before approaching Torres, Hoffman muttered to Vega, "This one looks good." That phrase became the centerpiece of Caldwell's argument. What made Torres look good for an immigration check? He was a black man in a hoodie minding his own business. ICE's legal team scrambled. Their initial response claimed Hoffman and Vega were conducting a routine compliance check in an area known for immigration violations. The problem? Route 9 had no such designation. There was no operation, no briefing, no supervisor approval. The agents had gone rogue, and their own body cameras proved it. Depositions began 3 months after filing. Hoffman testified first. Under oath, he claimed Torres exhibited nervous behavior. Caldwell played the body cam footage in the deposition room. Torres's body language showed zero nervousness, hands visible, voice steady, compliance without resistance. "What specifically made you believe Mr. Torres was undocumented?" Caldwell asked. Hoffman hesitated. "His appearance." "His appearance," Caldwell repeated. "Can you describe what about his appearance suggested he was undocumented?" Hoffman couldn't answer. The deposition transcript shows 12 seconds of silence before his attorney interrupted. Vega's deposition was worse. He admitted under oath that they had no description, no tip, and no reasonable suspicion. When asked why they stopped Torres, Vega said, "We stop people who look like they might not belong." Caldwell leaned forward. "And Captain Torres didn't look like he belonged at an American gas station?" The silence said everything. Discovery revealed more problems for ICE. Hoffman and Vega had a pattern. Internal records showed they conducted 67 stops in 6 months. 61 of those stops involved people of color. Only 3 resulted in actual immigration violations. The rest were released without charges, just like Torres. The case gained national attention. Civil rights organizations filed amicus briefs supporting Torres. News outlets requested the body cam footage under FOIA. ICE tried to block its release, which made them look worse. Torres gave one interview. He sat in his police captain's uniform and said, "If this can happen to me, a police captain, imagine what happens to people without a badge. This isn't about me. This is about accountability." The trial date was set for 8 months out. ICE knew they couldn't win. The evidence was overwhelming, the optics were terrible, and their own agents had confessed to racial profiling under oath. Settlement negotiations began immediately. ICE's legal team requested a settlement conference before the trial date. They knew what a jury would do with that body cam footage. Jennifer Caldwell walked into the negotiation with leverage, and she used every bit of it. The first offer came within days, $250,000. Caldwell didn't even respond. She filed a motion to make the body cam footage public record instead. ICE panicked and came back with $1.2 million, still insulting. Caldwell laid out the math for them. Emotional distress, violation of constitutional rights, punitive damages for the pattern of racial profiling, and the fact that Torres's reputation had been damaged despite his rank. She wanted $15 million. ICE countered with $3.8 million. The negotiations stalled. Then the media got involved. The body cam footage leaked. Within 48 hours, it had 6 million views across social media. The clip of Hoffman saying, "This one looks good," went viral. Civil rights leaders called for federal investigations. Congress members demanded hearings. ICE's public relations nightmare became a full-scale crisis. Torres received support from an unexpected source, his own police department. The Metro PD Police Union issued a statement condemning the stop and backing Torres's lawsuit. His precinct officers wore blue ribbons in solidarity. The police chief held a press conference calling the incident a disgrace to law enforcement everywhere. ICE's internal investigation concluded what everyone already knew. Hoffman and Vega violated protocol, engaged in racial profiling, and conducted an illegal stop without supervisory approval. The report recommended termination for both agents. 2 weeks later, they were fired. But firing them wasn't enough to stop the lawsuit. Caldwell argued that ICE's lack of training and oversight created the environment where this happened. She presented evidence of 61 similar stops, most involving people of color, most without legal justification. She called it systemic failure, not just two bad agents. Expert witnesses testified about the psychological impact of racial profiling. Dr. Raymond Cole, a clinical psychologist, explained how being detained at gunpoint causes lasting trauma, especially for someone in law enforcement who understands exactly how wrong the stop was. Torres developed anxiety, sleep disruption, and hypervigilance in public spaces. The decorated captain who once walked confidently through his community now felt unsafe pumping gas. ICE brought their own experts who tried to minimize the damages. They argued Torres wasn't physically harmed. The stop lasted only 4 minutes, and he kept his job. Caldwell dismantled that argument by showing the jury selection surveys. Over 80% of potential jurors who saw the body cam footage believed Torres deserved significant compensation. The settlement conference resumed. ICE offered $8.5 million. Caldwell held firm at $13 million. They met in the middle at $12.4 million, with one additional condition. ICE had to implement mandatory anti-bias training for all agents and create an oversight committee to review stops involving people of color. Torres agreed to the settlement. It wasn't just about the money. It was about forcing change in a system that allowed two agents to racially profile a police captain in broad daylight and almost get away with it. The settlement was finalized on a Thursday morning. ICE released a statement saying they take allegations of misconduct seriously, but admitted no wrongdoing. Legal boilerplate. But the $12.4 million payment and the policy changes told the real story. Hoffman and Vega's law enforcement careers were over. The body cam footage would be used in training sessions across the country as an example of what not to do. Justice had a price tag: $12.4 million. The $12.4 million settlement made headlines across the country. It was one of the largest payouts in a racial profiling case involving federal agents, and it sent shockwaves through ICE and law enforcement agencies nationwide. Michael Torres held a press conference 3 days after the settlement was finalized. He stood at the podium in his police captain's uniform, composed and direct. "This was never about the money," he said. "This was about making sure what happened to me doesn't happen to someone else who doesn't have a badge to protect them." He was right to be concerned. Within weeks of the settlement going public, 23 additional complaints were filed against ICE agents in the same district. The body cam footage had opened the floodgates. People who had been stopped, detained, and released without cause finally felt empowered to come forward. Caldwell's law firm was flooded with calls from victims who had similar experiences, but never thought they could fight back. The policy changes ICE agreed to went into effect immediately. Every agent was required to complete 40 hours of anti-bias training. Supervisors had to approve immigration compliance stops in advance unless there was immediate probable cause. And most importantly, an independent oversight committee was created to review body cam footage from stops involving people of color. 3 months after the settlement, the Oversight Committee released its first report. Out of 340 stops reviewed, 89 were found to have insufficient legal justification. 17 agents were suspended. 5 were terminated. The pattern Torres exposed wasn't isolated to Hoffman and Vega. It was institutional. Derek Hoffman and Luis Vega never worked in law enforcement again. Hoffman tried to appeal his termination, but lost. Vega moved to another state and took a job in private security. Their names became case studies in police academies and law schools as examples of what happens when bias overrides constitutional rights. Torres used part of the settlement to establish a legal defense fund for individuals who couldn't afford attorneys in civil rights cases. The Captain Michael Torres Justice Fund provided free legal representation to 47 people in its first year. 12 of those cases resulted in settlements or verdicts totaling over $3 million. The body cam footage became required viewing in federal law enforcement training. The FBI, Border Patrol, and even local police departments used it to teach officers about the consequences of racial profiling. The 4-minute video that destroyed 2 careers was now saving others by showing exactly what not to do. Torres remained captain of his downtown precinct. He didn't let the incident define him, but he didn't forget it either. He implemented new training protocols in his own department, focusing on constitutional policing and bias recognition. Crime rates in his district dropped while community trust increased. He turned his trauma into transformation. 2 years after the settlement, Torres was promoted to deputy chief. At his promotion ceremony, he said, "That day at the gas station could have broken me. Instead, it revealed a system that needed fixing. We fixed part of it, but the work isn't done." The $12.4 million wasn't just a settlement, it was accountability. It was validation. It was proof that even federal agents aren't above the law when they violate someone's rights. And it all started because 2 agents made the wrong assumption about a man in a gray hoodie. If this story moved you, make sure you're subscribed because the fight for justice never stops, and neither do we. Tomorrow's story will remind you why standing up for what's right always matters.